Hey everyone, welcome to Panamint Mountains Death Valley Adventure 5. We have a very special and big backpacking trip in store here in the Panamint Mountains for the next 3.5 days. My friend Josh and I are here at the trailhead for Sourdough Canyon, where we are dropping off our truck. And short time from now, a Jeep shuttle is going to pick us up from Ferriby's and bring us around to Johnson Canyon, where we'll be dropped off at Wilson Spring a few hours from now. So this is actually where we're going to end the route in 3.5 days. Can't wait to get started on this huge adventure that I've been waiting a long time to do. This is going to be very, very special. Okay, we're going to weigh in the packs here at the beginning of our Panamint Mountains trip. Again, we're going to be out there for 3.5 days, but we do have water sources, so less water than we're used to carrying. Here we go. 48.8 pounds. Not bad. I'm very happy to be under 50 pounds.
Oh, I'm way under. 36.3.
As we await our Jeep shuttle, just want to introduce you to Josh, one of my best friends. And actually, you may remember him if you watched my Cottonwood Mountains Death Valley Adventure 3 epic backpacking trip. But here we are back 2 years later after we did the Cottonwoods, and we're heading into the Panamints now.
Yeah.
And a real special thing about having Josh here is that he was with me 18 years ago when us and two friends hiked up Sourdough Canyon and went to Panamint City for the very first time. And here we are back on the greatest adventure I've ever undertaken in the Panamints. But Josh, do you remember anything about that trip 18 years ago?
Yeah, there was a fair amount that was fun. We just were talking about the hiking up here quite a bit. You'll reach the Tunnel of Love, which is just like a little canopy cover that the river's going through, and I remember that was just like a really neat experience. But then, I mean, just all the abandoned equipment and buildings that are in the old mining town is going to be neat seeing. I remember taking a picture inside one of the trucks, you know, seeing the buildings that are still there. The smokestack, hopefully, I'm assuming it's still standing.
Yeah, so we're excited to be starting this. Of course, we're going to be driven around to the other side of the mountain range to Johnson Canyon. So it's good to be back.
Yeah, excited.
Here comes our shuttle ride. There goes our shuttle ride. Ferriby's dropped us off here at Wilson Spring. It's 5:30 in the evening, getting dark, and as you saw, our shuttle ride from Ferriby's. Great company, great people. We highly recommend them for tours, Jeep rentals, and hiker shuttles here in Death Valley. But we got dropped off here. It was about 5 hours of time to get from one trailhead to this trailhead. So we just have enough time to camp here at Wilson Spring. The water's flowing amazingly. So we're gonna get a little bit away from the water and set up camp for the evening. And we'll just call this day 0 because this was all about shuttling and getting to the trailhead to get an early start tomorrow. We set up camp here at Wilson Spring, a little bit up on the hillside, away from the water. Again, trying to keep in mind park regulations. And yeah, let me go ahead and just take a moment to show you camp. It's not something I'm always able to do, but since it's a little bit light out, here you can see my tent and Josh's tent down on the next little bank down below. Let me take a moment here and show you. So I've got my cooking stuff as well as my lemonade drink mix. And then in here, got my sleeping bag, insulated sleeping pad, the inflatable pillow, backpacker's pillow. And then there's all my clothing, including cold weather gear, which I'm going to be needing. And over here you can see my backpack, and then taking a moment here to show you all the food I'm bringing for the next 3 days. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to be do real well for the next 3 days, especially with all the abundance of water areas we're going to be camping at. Good morning and welcome to day 1 here of Panamint Mountains Death Valley Adventure 5. So yesterday, of course, we used the whole day to do the vehicle shuttle to get over here to Johnson Canyon and Wilson Spring and just set up camp here because it was getting dark as we arrived. Had a nice evening here, really beautiful spot to camp by the flowing spring. A lot of water down there. And today we have a big day in store. To start with, we're going to be hiking from here at Wilson Spring to Hungry Bill's, which is 1.8 miles with 830 feet of elevation gain. And Hungry Bill's is located at 4,700 feet in elevation. And then from Hungry Bill's, we need to do another 5.7 miles with 3,370 feet of elevation gain in order to get to Panamint Pass. We're going to be going up the fresh vegetables route, whatever's left of it. And we're expecting that to be extremely challenging. But I've been waiting a long time to do this particular hike to go connect from Hungry Bill's to Panamint City. So I'm really excited about today's hike. Can't wait to get it started. And when we get to Hungry Bill's, I'll stop and explain a little bit more about what took place there and about the fresh vegetables route. Little trail update. We've been working our way up Johnson Canyon and the water is flowing quite a bit from the springs. Some pretty waterfalls, as you saw. I'm actually surprised just how much water is coming down this because we are in early November right now, and that's kind of the lowest time of year for some of the springs after the long hot summer before some rain and snow hits into these mountains. But the canyon here is beginning to be choked by brush and trees. So now we're kind of skirting the side as we continue up toward Hungry Bill's. You can see right here just how much brush has taken over this canyon. And we're going on a faint use trail or sheep trail, whatever the case, around the side of it. Just did a bit of a major bypass here. We are still following along the top of this high trail, high above the canyon. Very well built and easy to follow. You can see the brush of the canyon is far below us. So this has kept us out of there. Check out this view here looking back down canyon from above on the high trail. You can see quite a bit from here as we continue toward Hungry Bill's up canyon. Really tricky spot here where we came down from the high trail and hit this wall of brush. Having trouble finding a route through at the moment. This is the first extreme brush area that we're gonna have to bushwhack through. We can't find any other way to get up canyon, so I'm gonna try this. Should be a simple thing, really, just getting across the creek, but that was a brutal bushwhack. Really had to force our way through some brush there to get across and get on the trail here on the other side. I don't see any easy way through this section, but we got across, just taking a short break and continuing. The high trail goes across the right side there, which is the south side of the canyon. Continues right along till it reaches this rock wall, and then it is gone. So the challenge is getting across here, across this brush to the trail, which is on the other side, which we can see right there, to continue. Here on the other side, on the north side, we found a trail that is skirting just above all the brush. We have crossed back over the creek to the other side. Easy crossing this time, but had to get back over. The other side cliffs out, and so we're back on the south side. We're back down at creek level, and a lot of the brush is cleared away finally. We can actually walk through here. This is the first view we kind of have looking up toward Panamint Pass, the low saddle in the middle, where we're ultimately trying to get to today. The route's going to continue to get harder, no doubt, as we progress up Johnson Canyon. We've arrived here at the starting point to get through, walk through Hungry Bill's, and so I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about this area. William Johnson, whom Johnson Canyon was named for, moved into this area in the mid-1870s and began growing vegetables and planted an orchard to grow fruits and nuts. Now this was a business enterprise that he was involved with, because the produce, the fruits, the nuts, the vegetables, everything he would grow here, he would have hauled over to Panamint City from here to sell to the miners as mining operations were booming there. And the route that he used to connect here from Hungry Bill's to Panamint Pass and down to Panamint City became known as the Fresh Vegetables Route, or FVR for short. Now, anytime I'm trying to learn about past mining operations in Death Valley, I usually look at the Historic Resource Study for information. There is a Lieutenant Bernie that is mentioned there and quoted from a hike over Panamint Pass and down here that he did in 1876. And notice what he wrote. This was Lieutenant Bernie again, the Wheeler Survey of 1876, where the reference stated that he and his companions took the trail leading from Panamint City across the Panamint Range east to Johnson Canyon, and found that the first portion of the descent to Death Valley by trail was very steep. In the canyon through which we passed, grass and a short-running stream were found. Also a small cultivated piece of ground where vegetables were raised with facility by irrigation. So that's what we're going to be looking at as we go through here, as I pass through the orchard grounds of Hungry Bill's, is to see what's left over of the fruit trees and remains of the operations here that were done by William Johnson and later by Hungry Bill. One of the most distinct features left over of Hungry Bill's ranch are the stone walls. Some of them are in good shape, others are starting to fall away. Right here we have a fig tree, and check this out. We do have some figs starting to grow on here.
So right behind me is a fig tree, which is majorly overgrown. And then there's actually a pear tree, which is, I guess, a little bit late in the season, but there's a couple still left. Has a hint of pear, but it's very bitter. Yeah, I wouldn't get these at the store. All right, trying an apple. Apple flavor, but a little dry.
Okay, Josh tried his. I'm going to try my Hungry Bill's apple. See how they taste after all these years. Not bad, but not a lot of moisture in them. Okay, well, looking around, Josh found us a green apple tree. So we're gonna give these a taste test as well. It's actually better, it's actually juicier.
Yeah, it does have a little bit more heft to it. Better.
Pretty cool that Hungry Bill's is still providing fruit for hikers after all these years. This green apple is really good. Like we were saying, the red one was a little bit dry, a little bit, didn't have much moisture to it for some reason, but green one's a lot better.
It's a little bit past season, but you can see there's some old grapes, now I guess raisins. These look pretty dang dried out though. That's that's more than sun-dried. It's like a dried chili. That's grape flavored.
Another example of the huge walls here. Josh still enjoying his apple. This will probably be our best view right here as we're leaving the orchard fields behind, continuing up canyon. We reached another spot where the route cuts off and cliffs out with all this brush below. So we're trying to figure out where to go from here. We dropped directly into the brush And now we're trying to find a way out of it. Josh here is trying to break away some dead branches. This is a major bushwhack to get through this section. This is some really crazy stuff here. He's making it. We can see daylight on the other side if we can get through this massive old dead brush. How did you get us through that? That was some crazy stuff, man.
Oh, that was. Oh my goodness. Well, we're on the other side.
As you can see, we're now bypassing the brush on the right side or north side. Found a really nice trail over here once we crossed over. We just got some good news here in Johnson Canyon. See all this brush? It abruptly ends right here. And we have clear canyon ahead with trees growing in it. Canyon has really changed here in the last few minutes. Coming out of all that thick brush, the spring that was running, and now having this wide open canyon, slightly narrow, but it's also filled with trees. But the progress is easy to get through it, so we're going to see how long this holds up through this section. Here's what the canyon looks like right now, walking straight down the middle of the wash. So this last 10 minutes or so we've been navigating off trail through the forest. And you can see that's the wash down below, but not exactly a clear route. So we're just working our way the best we can. The canyon has narrowed down, filled with boulders, and has trees everywhere. That's what's making it hard now. Always something in Johnson Canyon. A little trail update. I'm walking up on a hillside here. We've been crisscrossing back and forth across the wash, sometimes walking in the wash, sometimes on one side or the other on faint animal trails or old mining trails, who knows. But yeah, we're just about to the spot marked on the topo map, the final spring in Johnson Canyon. And from there, we're going to take the left fork and continue up a little more ways, another mile or so, until we hop onto the fresh vegetables switchbacks. Up ahead, we have our very first view of Sentinel Peak, high up above us. We won't be going to Sentinel Peak this time, but it's neat to be able to see it from this side after having previously summited it quite a few years ago. Great view here.
Looks like we found some I don't know if it's old mining stuff, but here's a big can of baking powder. And then an old 10-inch aluminum pan. And then we got some beans and some other kind of grain. And some bones.
Few views of the canyon here as we're back in the wash. Passing by a lot of giant boulders that have rolled in here pretty much for the last hour or so. We're continuing up this wash. A couple things to mention here. The Johnson Canyon wash is very, very steep. So progress is slow going, obviously. And there's a lot of boulders in the wash, as you can see. A lot of trees. Sometimes the trees completely block the wash. And that's why we're jumping back and forth on hillsides. It's just a very, very slow canyon to hike up. It takes a lot of time and effort. But also, from right here, we are 1 mile away from beginning the fresh vegetables route climb. So definitely a little apprehensive and nervous, but also excited to see what that's going to be like. Continues to be very steep and difficult to get up this canyon. Check out this massive pile of logs that's built up right here. Taking quite a few breaks on the way up here. This is some rugged hiking. Very steep and difficult, and just constantly dealing with obstacles everywhere. From right here to Panamint Pass is about 2,100 feet in elevation gain to get up there. So we're doing the best we can. We're making our way up there, and our goal at this point is to get to Panamint Pass by 5 o'clock, which would be dark. So we're gonna see if we can do that. Typical wash view here. Navigating around trees. Actually, this area right here is a little bit better than most. Still a steep climb though. Josh and I were just talking about the route so far today, and what we kind of came up with is that there's basically been nothing easy all day. There will be like a couple minutes of nice wash, like kind of like what I'm in now, but after that there's 30 minutes of non-stop crazy terrain. It's just a really hard canyon to hike up. I don't want anyone watching this to underestimate it if they're thinking about attempting this someday. Don't take it lightly. 1/3 of a mile from here, the fresh vegetable route switchbacks will begin, but just wanted to show you the view at this point, looking up Johnson Canyon. So we're about to begin climbing out of it, with Sentinel Peak high above it, and Panamint Pass will be to the right. Just want to show you what we're going through here in Upper Johnson Canyon. Very narrow wash and just all kinds of obstacles. You can see what it looks like. Lots of boulders, lots of rocks. Just zigzagging back and forth to get through. Right here you can see we've kind of moved away from the wash to the left of it, right on the edge of the hillside, and it's been a little bit easier to navigate through. Not easy, but easier. We're always scouting out for a better route. Honest thoughts so far, the route up Johnson Canyon to this point just before we turn off onto the FVR.
Yeah, it's been really rough. Going through all the brush, crossing the creek, just winding back and forth up this canyon is taking a lot of time, and it's steep, but I mean, it's been good, but yeah, man, it's rough. It is a slog.
We finally did it at 3:30. We made it onto the switchbacks of the fresh vegetables route. So we're going to compare now the canyon portion of the fresh vegetables route between Hungry Bill's and here, or the switchbacks portion of the fresh vegetables route. We definitely know we're on the route now. You can see perhaps the faint trail behind me, but also let me turn the camera around. Right here, somebody's even marked it with cairns, but my map, topo map, confirmed that it officially turns right here. And this is the first switchback of the fresh vegetables route right here. Apparently not much of the route remains, but right here we can see it. As we exit Johnson Canyon one final time, I just wanted to look up at the rim high above it. Check out those peaks, the head wall way up there. Really cool scene up there. It didn't take long to lose the trail, and now we're hiking steeply uphill a shale field. Check out that view. This is just really cool having this view, but it's at the same time really hard. This steep slope Josh is climbing up, and our view looking back into Johnson Canyon and beyond. Doing a bit of side hilling on this route, which is never fun. Panamint Pass is off in the distance there. Over here, last rays of sunshine up on those tall peaks. Here's our best view yet of Panamint Pass, the little spot there in the middle. And I'll zoom in a little bit, show you a closer view as we work our way around the hillside here. Not easy at all. Very tough going and no sign of the FVR. Here's the view of the valley. We are 1/2 air mile from Panamint Pass, looking back down. More side hilling here. Panamint Pass just above us. Sunset is in about 10 minutes. So check out this view. I'll zoom in a little here. Looking out and down Johnson Canyon. Panamint Pass doesn't look all that far away from here, but we still have 700 feet of gain. It is getting dark, so I'm not going to be able to film much more, but we did get back on the official FVR. Been seeing stacks of rocks and a faint trail for quite a while now. Last little comment here before it gets too dark, and I'll switch to commenting by light. We picked up the FVR again, and probably about another 45 minutes, but I think we're past the worst of it. So we picked up the trail, and I have the trail marked. So we'll see how well it goes here this last 1/3. I just won't be able to show you much. I don't think this can be seen, but we are crossing a massive scree field, but we're on the fresh vegetables route, and it makes it easy to cross this. Wish I could show it to you better. As well, I wish I could show you this view. Maybe you could see it a little bit. Little trail update. We have less than 500 feet of elevation to get to Panamint Pass. I can actually still see it. There's enough light. I can see it up there. It doesn't look that far away. So I'm not really worried about this last section. It's just a matter of getting it done. But also I wanted to mention, it's very, very cold outside. You can see me bundled up, and perhaps you could see Josh a little bundled up there. Tonight's low at Panamint City is supposed to be 27, and Panamint Pass is some fair amount of elevation higher than Panamint City. So it's going to be cold as we cross over that, especially if the wind blows, as we've had the occasional gust. But onward and upward. Filming for a moment here in the dark as we're continuing up the FVR, and the trail has been amazing ever since the last check-in. It's just been so easy to follow, even in the dark. We're going straight to Panamint Pass. We've only got like 100 feet in elevation left to make it there. And the upper portion here, the fresh vegetables route, really, really good. Really happy that we got to do this easier portion after dark. Here is the marker. We made it to Panamint Pass. It's 7 o'clock in the evening here at Panamint Pass. And yeah, this was very challenging, but fortunately the last 1/3 of the route from when I first checked in with this light was a lot easier to follow. The fresh vegetables route was clear even by flashlight all the way almost up to the pass. Because I can't show you the view here, what I thought I'd do is share a picture of my friends Alex and Allie, because Alex helped me when she did this route. She took a lot of photos and then she shared them with me to help prep for this hike. So I thought it was only fitting maybe I could share, with their approval, right now a picture of Alex and Allie here at Panamint Pass. So we're going to continue down Frenchman's Canyon now and get to Panamint City so we can set up camp in the freezing cold and pitch black dark skies. The clock just struck 12 midnight and just about to eat my dinner. 14 hours of backpacking today from Wilson Spring to Panamint City via the fresh vegetables route. I'll tell you much more about it tomorrow. Really tired, really hungry, and didn't get into my tent till 11:45 at night. Hiked all the way down Frenchman's Canyon in the pitch black by flashlight. Anyway, talk to you more about it tomorrow. It's one of the hardest days for both me and Josh that we've ever hiked in our life. Good night. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 here in the Panamint Mountains. As you can no doubt tell, I am here at Panamint City for the 6th time in my life, with my previous visits coming in 2006, 2007, 2009, then 2011, and 2012. So it's been 12 long years since I've been here to Panamint City, and it's a privilege to be back, even if it's just for one night and this morning. Now, the purpose of my film is not to focus on and showcase Panamint City, so I'm not going to show you that much of the surrounding area, and there is a ton to see here. On my previous visits, most of the time I came for multiple days. It's just because there's so much to see around town, so much to do here. It's a great place to do a backpacking trip. But the focus for us is continuing on in our route and going to our next destination, which I'll be telling you about. But what I wanted to mention was that Panamint City is a place that's near and dear to my heart. Truly love this place, and that's why I named my former Death Valley website PanamintCity.com after it. Now my website is offline for the general public, but only available to Death Valley Park staff. So if you want to check it out, feel free to start working for Death Valley National Park. So in just a couple minutes, I'm going to have a little discussion with my friend Josh, and we'll talk about yesterday's hike. Let me just take a moment and show you where we camped last night. There's Josh's tent. There's the Panamint Hilton, my tent, and the smelter over there in the distance. And yeah, we slept very close to the Panamint Hilton, which I'll take you inside for a moment. And on some of our early trips to Panamint City, we did indeed sleep inside here. There are some nice cots and spots for sleeping, as you can see right here. In fact, there's a separate bedroom back here even. You can see right here. The reason I discontinued sleeping in here was the presence of hantavirus. So probably not even a good idea to walk in here without a N95 mask. Well, here we are in Panamint City, relaxing on the front porch of the Panamint Hilton. And before Josh and I head out for the day, I thought we could just look back at yesterday's epic 14-hour backpacking adventure. So I thought we could kind of break it down into segments. And the first part of the hike yesterday, we went from Wilson Spring to Hungry Bill's. Some nice views across as we went up on the high trail, looking up and down Johnson Canyon, but those couple of times we had to cross through the brush were just kind of a nightmare, bushwhacking. And then the next segment of the hike, once we got out of the brush of Johnson Canyon, was between there and when we began the switchbacks up the mountain toward Panamint Pass. for me, that next section was really, really hard, and that's because the wash was kind of filled with trees, boulders. You couldn't get through at times, so you had to go back and forth one side of the wash to the other. So even though in a straight line the distance was short, it seemed like it took forever. What do you think about that part?
Yeah, no, I mean it was clogged with a lot of obstacles, and so it wasn't just, you know, a straight shot walking. You were just kind of zigzagging, backtracking, because you'd have to go around something, climbing over boulders and like mini dry falls. Yeah, it was just the whole day was super slow.
And that led us to the switchbacks at the mountain. So the fresh vegetables route pretty much starts at Hungry Bill's and ends here at Panamint City. But the part of the FVR that goes up the mountain, remember at the very first spot we were able to follow the trail for like 30 seconds and then we didn't see it for like an hour or two later?
Yeah.
But what do you think about that part of the hike?
Well, having the trail was like, oh, this is great, and then it just disappeared, and you know, I mean, you're just crossing a sideways mountain is rough going, especially in the shale. Just you're slipping and sliding, having to make sure that you're, you know, having proper footing. And at that point, I mean, how long have we been hiking for? That would have been, what, 8 hours? You're tired already, and then slipping on shale and going across a mountain, trying to get to the summit. Yeah, it was that's when the first tired hit before I got my second wind, was in that section.
Yeah, and what was interesting, of course, it got pitch black right as we were crossing the major shale field, but that's when we picked up the fresh vegetables route again. And what was neat was pretty much the moment the darkness hit, we picked up the trail and we never lost it again until basically to Panamint Pass. So even though it was dark out and we were going by flashlight, I felt like that portion of the route was the easiest, the last 1/3 of the hill climb.
Yeah, which was, I mean, fortunate, since we, you know, had to put on headlamps and you couldn't really see very far in any direction you were going, but that was surprisingly the easiest part of the hike.
Yeah, and then things got crazy when we got to Panamint Pass because we got a little bit disoriented, and you know, because it was pitch black and I had to pull out the compass to make sure we were going in the right direction, and then monitor the GPS tracking as we went down Frenchman's Canyon. What do you think about hiking down Frenchman's Canyon in the pitch black by flashlight?
I mean, there were sections where you were just flying, you know, because when you had the trail for, I mean, it seemed like we would pick it up and maybe go 200 feet, 300 feet on it, and then you'd lose it again, and then it would just slow way down. So you'd have like these spurts where it's like, oh man, is this you know, we're gonna get into Panamint City really, really fast, and then you just, you know, hit brush and have to go down into the wash and all that kind of crazy stuff. So it was your heart would be lifted and then it would be crushed multiple times.
Yeah, and we were pretty much wiped out by that point. So that was, to me, that was some of the hardest stuff we did, just because of the time of day, the fact that all our energy was gone.
Yeah.
And we knew we had to get here to Panamint City. We were out of water. I actually had my last sip of water in Frenchman's Canyon coming down. And then, of course, getting here to Panamint City, setting up camp, and then we had to go back up to the water tank and get water so we could cook and get through the night. So that was something else, to start eating dinner at midnight.
Yeah, it was rough.
Anyway, we're talking far too long here, but that should give you a glimpse of what the fresh vegetables route truly is like, the experience that we both had coming from Hungry Bill's to here. And now we're gonna get back out on the trail. Last view here before heading out of Panamint City, looking back at the overflow cabin. You can see Frenchman's Canyon cutting up to the right in the distance. And over at the Panamint Hilton, the machine shop, and of course the smelter. And looking on down Surprise Canyon. And what we're doing here is heading up the Sourdough Canyon cutoff trail to get into Sourdough Canyon. Just making the turn right now. away from Panamint City into Sourdough Canyon. I've always loved this connector trail because not only is it a shortcut to get over to Sourdough Canyon and the castle, but the views looking down at Panamint City are great. Let me take a moment before we head out to give a short tour of the castle. Here's the outdoor bathtub, which our groups have used before. And then outside, really nice front porch here. Got some chairs. Love this bighorn skull right here. And then let me go inside. So this is the entrance area. Got some donations here, tents, sleeping pads, kitchen area with some historic photos of Panamint City. Pretty cool. And the bedroom area. So I know some do still sleep in here. I don't, due to the hantavirus risk. And almost forgot to show you this nice sign somebody made for the place. Very fitting, very well done. Just finished signing in here to the registry here at the castle. Really impressed with the upkeep here. Appreciate all the volunteers who come up here from time to time to put work into keeping this place looking nice. And it is indeed neat to be back here. We are heading out from the castle now and going over to Sourdough Canyon Road. We are going to take it all the way to the top. Something I've done a couple times before, but that is what day 2 is all about. We're going to be hiking up and over from Surprise Canyon into Hall Canyon. And as we hike up this road, we're going to be gaining about 2,000 feet in elevation. So this will be quite a climb, but it will also include some awesome views. It's going to be a really fun day working our way into Hall Canyon, which of course is my namesake canyon. This is the old road that works its way up to the top here, the divide between the two canyons. Sourdough Canyon Road. It's going to be a steep climb. This road, it's really been washed out from flooding and things like that. So, of course, it's long been closed, but if it wasn't, people would have quite a bit of trouble getting up it. Now, of course, it's a hiking trail. A little bit more information about today's route. The road hike, all uphill, is going to be about 4 miles long. And we have to go up to 8,500 feet in elevation to cross over. Right now here on this road we're at about 6,600. So we have, from this spot we have about 1,900 feet of gain. And then once we cross over and take the side canyon into Hall Canyon, we have 5 miles from that spot to camp. So total mileage today is 9 miles. Nature has really reclaimed this road. A lot of junipers in the wash, a lot of pinyon pines. It's really kind of like just doing a scramble to get through a wash. Little road hike update. About 1/5 of a mile from here, the road is going to make a sharp bend to the left. That's kind of the first marker spot to keep track of progress climbing up Sourdough Canyon Road. It's been steep, but not too bad going up this. There's been some washouts, some overgrown areas, even a few dry falls created. but not too bad, making good progress. Here's a good spot where you can see the road totally washed out. You see the wash down below, and the road actually climbs right here and continues. This portion of road leading up to the first major bend has been incredibly steep. This final little section here, which I'm kind of glad about because it's helping us knock out elevation quickly. The steeper it is, the more elevation we get knocked out. We finally reached the bend in the road, and this is at 7,400 feet in elevation. You can see the great views looking back. And here's the road as it turns and continues uphill in that direction. Really great views looking down here. It's going to just get better as we continue up this road. But past the bend, as I recall, the road does flatten out a bit, so it's not so steep for a while. And it's almost 1 o'clock, so we're going to take our lunch break up ahead. Absolutely amazing views looking down into Panamint City. Just noticed as I was taking one more look at this view, of course Panamint City down there, bottom right, but if you look at the left, that low saddle, that is Panamint Pass. Let me zoom in on that for a moment. That's where we were standing last night at 8,000 feet in elevation in the pitch black. Taking our lunch break here at Sourdough Canyon Road overlook of Panamint City, and just giving a little trail update. We have done 1,210 feet of elevation gain, and we've got 1,000 feet of elevation gain left. So there's 2,210 feet of gain from Panamint City to the pass into Hall Canyon. Lunch today, got my tortillas, sweet Hawaiian flavor, as well as some star-kissed chicken salad to put on there. I was just looking up at Panamint Pass and Frenchman's Canyon. Such a steep drainage coming down from it, and just imagining us coming down that in the dark last night. Pretty crazy experience. We are rounding our next major bend in the road. I'll show you the views in just a second. But we're turning away from the Panamint City area. Take a look at how good condition the road is in. Kind of ever since we made that first bend, the road condition has improved dramatically, and it's not quite as steep, which has allowed us to make much better time moving through this section of Sourdough Canyon Road. Just passed by a nice opening, as you can see right here, a view down Surprise Canyon into Panamint Valley. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Really great spot here for looking out and seeing just so much. I really love hiking in some of these forests and the high elevation mountain ranges in the park, such as right here with the Panamints, also the cottonwoods, the grapevines. Just such a different world to the lower portion of Death Valley. Forests and trees. All these trees covering the mountainside, and the smell of pine in the air. Just such a great experience coming out here and hiking through these forests. Here's a spot on the road where it's gotten completely overgrown by these plants. Forcing our way through here. See a steep drop off on this side. Can still see Sentinel Peak and Panamint Pass, and then the road as it dropped a little bit of elevation, then came back up. And now we've been climbing steeply, battling through these plants. Slowed us down quite a bit. Up ahead, you can see how the road winds up the mountain, and that low spot right in the middle of the video right there is our saddle, where we'll be dropping into Hall Canyon, getting set to do our final 350 feet in elevation to the crossover, and a little bit more bush dodging to do. These plants here have been super annoying. Bypassing some more of our favorite plants right here. The road at the upper portion once again got overgrown. Approaching the pass right here. 8,500 feet in elevation. Old mining relics. But what I want to draw your attention to is, cold on this side, Telescope Peak. Look at this amazing view from the saddle between Surprise Canyon and Hall Canyon, the ridge. Telescope Peak there in the distance. Quite spectacular. Truly blown away by that view of Telescope Peak as you see behind me. It's really cold here at this saddle. A very cold wind blowing in from the north. Now we have a big challenge ahead of us. It's 3 o'clock, so it's going to be getting dark in 2 hours. And we've got to drop down these slopes behind me into Hall Canyon. And we've got to drop over 2,000 feet of elevation, which I think will be rather steeply and probably trailless, to get down into Middle Hall Canyon and work our way down Hall Canyon to camp. All right, we're going to begin the drop down, and don't really know what to expect, except for it looks like it's going to start off really steep here. This will be very interesting. Hopefully it doesn't get too much steeper than this. Actually got a patch of snow on the ground right here. It did snow here like 10 days ago in the Panamint. More patches of snow on the ground. You see a lot of footprints. I don't know if that's another hiker or animal tracks going down this steep grade. You can see though, as we're heading down, that's going to be our view, Telescope Peak. Here's something that has rolled down the hill from that little camp up above. I have to say this is a very steep initial drop. Kind of drop that makes me wish I had hiking poles with me. We just picked up a view going down these slopes of the Panamint Dunes far in the distance. I'm going to zoom in here. And if you'll recall my previous Death Valley Adventure film, which was Darwin Plateau, Death Valley Adventure 4, with the Wash Wanderers, we visited the Panamint Dunes. So be sure to check that one out as well. Really steep terrain here that we're going down. Pine cones are making this very slippery. Just such a steep drop down here. We've already quickly dropped 300 feet in elevation. See, all the pine cones have filled the gully, which makes that super slippery. This continues to be very challenging. We're now 500 feet in elevation down from the saddle. Found a gully we're kind of sticking to, kind of going back and forth, looking for the best route, but it's very, very steep. Far below, we can actually see the wash we're trying to get into, and that wash is a side canyon of Hall Canyon. So we'll follow that wash down to the left and then eventually join the main canyon. But walking will definitely be better once we get off this hillside. Trailless hiking, that's what Death Valley is known for. So check out what we found here in this gully, an intact bighorn skull. The sheep obviously died here some time ago. Take a look at this. Wow, look at this skull and horns. Yeah, don't find one this intact too often. Really cool. See how the gully is totally filled with fallen trees, logs, branches. Makes the going really slow and slippery. Well, here we go. Even high in the Panamint's a birthday balloon. Never stop seeing these. Route update down this gully. We've dropped now over 1,100 feet in elevation. It's all been hard. Nothing has come easy down this route. We're just trying to get out into Hall Canyon or the Hall Side Canyon before dark. Well, we found one more animal here in the wash. And this time we've got a mule deer. Check out these antlers. Yeah, so a deer, bighorn sheep, and then a deer here lost their lives in this particular gully we're coming down. It's 5 o'clock, darkness is falling, but I wanted to show you here in the gully, look at this log pile. Completely filled the gully. I've never seen anything quite like this. We're gonna pass through this now. Well, it is getting quite dark out, and I just wanted to show one last view of Telescope Peak. We're almost down from this gully into the main wash of the side canyon. Yeah, Telescope Peak, the highlight of dropping into this canyon, seeing that view. Just wanted to give you a little update here. It's 8:30 at night. It's been dark for over 3 hours, and had a real rough time coming down from that saddle that we were on up there in between Hall Canyon and Surprise Canyon. So we followed the gully down, and it just got more and more difficult, and just there was so much wood in it. We had such a hard time getting through that, but we did finally make it through it. Washes began merging, washes got larger with less obstacles, and now we're in Hall Canyon. So we're only at 1¼ miles from camp right now, working our way down Hall Canyon. Can't see anything because it's dark, but we did have a nice experience, which has happened to me in the past in Death Valley, where there was a playful fox that was circling around, following us, checking us out, just kind of crossing back and forth in front of us, but from our flashlights we could see its eyes and the fur. So it's always nice to have a fox keep you company on a Death Valley night hike. And I do wish I could see this area. I have been through here before, but at the same time, hiking at night is kind of a special experience here, so I'm taking it all in and looking forward to getting to camp, which will be close to the Roland cabin here within the hour. Getting water near the Rolling Cabin here at 9:30 at night. It's not an easy process because there's not much of a flow. You can see how we got to get it into this bag. It's 11 o'clock p.m. and we got camp fully set up, got our dinners fixed. I'm gonna eat mine in just a moment, it's ready. But what a day of hiking. Day 2 was just barely a little easier than day 1, but that's not saying much. We hiked for a little over 11 hours today. The easy part of the day, even though it was a lot of steep elevation gain, was going up Sourdough Canyon Road, but once we crossed over there at the pass and tried to drop into Hall Canyon, that was super challenging. Can't tell you how hard that was, dropping down that hillside into a gully that was filled with just so much wood and stumps, branches, fallen trees. Really hard time. And then of course it got dark, so we hiked out the last 3+ hours by flashlight, which included the last part of the gully, the Hall Canyon side canyon, and then the Hall Canyon main canyon, until we finally found the Rolling Cabin, the water source, and a place to camp. So I'm gonna eat dinner and get to bed and tell you about day 3 when we wake up. Waking up to camp here in Hall Canyon. That's looking up the canyon, and you can see our tent sites. Josh eating his breakfast, and the Rolling Cabin is just in that direction, as well as the old road or trail over to Jail Canyon and on down the Hall Canyon Gorge. Good morning, welcome to day 3 here in the Panamint Mountains. And we're just waking up here. We camped within sight of the Rolling Cabin, which you can see right here. I'll show you a little footage of that in a minute. But yeah, last night we came in after dark as usual and pretty wiped out after a 14-hour day of hiking and an 11-hour day of hiking. For this hike, you can't really judge it by the distance because the distance is shorter, but just the amount of time that it takes due to the difficulty. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, but it's been a big challenge. So probably a hike better suited, backpacking route better suited to the springtime when there's longer hours. But anyway, we're getting through it, and we're going to check out this area here and then pack up and head out on our day 3 route. Here's just a little footage of the Rolling Cabin. The roof has given way, as you can see. I'm not going to go inside because it's overrun by rodents, but I'll give you a little view here of what it looks like in here. Yeah, definitely falling apart due to weather and age, but it's still standing. Literally just steps from the Rolling Cabin is this spring. You can see a decent trickle here, a little bit tricky to gather up water, but what we did is we kept following the spring up till we found a little bit bigger pools we could get water from. That's what you saw last night. I'm not sure if you can see it on the hillside about, I don't know, 4/5 of the way down from the top, but you can see the trail that we're going to take to get out of Hall Canyon and to begin crossing back over to Lower Surprise Canyon. It's known as the Hall Surprise Connector Trail. Here we go, day 3, heading out of camp. And we're just getting out of the wash almost immediately and onto the Hall Surprise Connector Trail. You can see how the trail starts climbing steeply above the wash. Fairly well-defined trail to start out. Very steep climb to start out here. Also, the trail is a little bit obscure. Let's take a look at the views from partway up this trail. You can see the Hall Jail connector road. Actually going way up the mountain and on down as we hike above the gorge. And look at this view. You can see as the Hall Canyon gorge takes shape between the towering rock walls with the wall-to-wall brush. We lost the trail for a bit. This definitely takes good navigational abilities. But as you can see, we've picked it up again and just kind of following the trail high above Hall Canyon. The trail has been very faint lately. We're managing to stay on it as we wrap around this hillside. This is definitely requiring expert route finding. Check out our views down into Hall Canyon as we continue on the faint trail. Not really sure how we've done this so well. The trail was so faint we could barely make it out for a long time, but now it's much more clear. It's really going well. Just a steep climb and a few sketchy spots as well, where you wouldn't want to slip, or you could slide down a very steep slope. Right here, you can see what looks like a park boundary marker. And right here, we came up upon what I would call one of the best viewpoints I've ever found here in Death Valley National Park, at least once I step across that boundary. You can see down into the Hall Canyon Gorge at two just incredibly beautiful waterfalls. In the past, I talked about how there's 4 major waterfalls that are accessible to hikers, that they can check out and hike up to and see reasonably, and those are Mill, Darwin, Monarch, and Willow. Now, it doesn't look like there would be any way to get down to these waterfalls outside of canyoneering, but just being able to see them from this viewpoint makes me want to add the Hall Canyon waterfalls to my list. Let me show you some views, and then I'll step outside of park boundaries here and get in closer with some aerial footage. Again, following all park rules and regulations, of course. Let me give you the setting here. Here's Hall Canyon, the springs by where we camped. Then it comes into this gorge here. And right down here are the 2 waterfalls, or we might call it a 2-stage waterfall. A lot of water down there. Also, multiple chutes coming down at each waterfall. The very bottom one has a large pool of water that it's dropping into. So let's check out the aerial footage a little bit closer. Definitely naming this my trip highlight, seeing these two waterfalls. But now we've got to leave them behind, unfortunately, and continue up this connector trail and get to the top of this ridge here. That's the next objective. Looking over across the way there, we can make out the trail. We're trying to scramble around these cliffs right here, hopefully pick up a trail and get onto that trail over there to complete the route to the shelf above Panamint Valley. Still following the trail, winding around to that hillside right there, which will be the final section of this trail before we reach the top flat area. Should probably mention that this is a very advanced route we're doing here that is not for regular hikers. It'd be so easy to get lost or injured if somebody without experience tried to follow this trail. And I guess that goes for pretty much everything we've done on this trip. This Panamint Mountains backpacking trip. All advanced trails. Today has been quite fun because just trying to keep track of this trail as we're walking above the Sourdough Canyon gorge down there. Here's a new view for us down into the gorge. Not much to see, but it's just choked with brush. This trail has been real good lately. Real easy to follow. The trail continues to climb gradually, mostly good footing. And the views, as you can see right here, truly incredible. You can see all the way back to where we camped. This right here is our new view as we rounded a bend. You can see down kind of the rest of Sourdough Canyon out into Panamint Valley. And far in the distance, you're not going to be able to see it here, but we have such a gorgeous view of Mount Whitney. Look at this view we're coming up upon as we circle around and the trail turns to the south. Look at these views out southern Panamint Valley. And we're still on the trail. We have completed the connection to the plateau across the top. Really loving these views here. We're now walking across the top, and trail is very easy to follow up here as we're just kind of circling in and out of drainages. This is very enjoyable, relaxing hiking up here. Look how clearly defined this trail is. Again, this is known informally as the Hall Surprise Connector Trail. Right here you can see the terrain ahead. Along this trail we're going to be kind of just winding along these hillsides and working our way around toward the rim of Surprise Canyon. Just took a lunch break here along the top. Some really cool rock formations around and just endless views into Panamint Valley. But that climb out from the Roland cabin up to here, up to this shelf above Panamint Valley, took us about 2 hours. Pretty steady climb trail most of the way. Sometimes it was faint, lost it a few times, a few sketchy spots, but we made it. And of course, my trip highlight, seeing those waterfalls. So now we got a couple miles across this flat area where we're just going to kind of wind in and out of these little drainages or valleys. Back hiking again after our lunch break, and the clearly defined trail is still here, wrapping around to that next hillside. Right here, the view looking ahead shows the low point or saddle that we need to get to. And the higher point to the right of the saddle is 4839T on the topo map. So that's how that can be found. But looks like a difficult crossing ahead. Still on the trail here as it winds around the hillside. We've closed in on the saddle, but we do have to do a climb up the left side here and then around the top to get over to it. It's going to be probably one of the hardest parts of this route so far. We're climbing up this steep hillside about half the way up, and wanted to check out this view of peak 4839T. Really cool cliffs up at the very top there. Look how close we are to the saddle and crossover point. Picked up a faint trail way up this mountain. We made it up to the saddle, and that was quite the climb out. The crossover between Hall and Surprise has varied, with some easier parts and some really hard parts. And now we have a hard part ahead where we need to drop down to Surprise Canyon, pick up some faint trails, hopefully along the way, that I have marked on my GPS. But next stop will be the bottom of Surprise Canyon, just above the first narrows. And here's a panoramic view from the saddle. That's where we came from. Up there, peak 4839T. And down into Surprise Canyon, and the route we're going to take kind of angling in that direction. Coming down the other side, we have picked up a faint trail here. This trail should guide us most of the way into Surprise Canyon. Might lose it here and there, but I have it marked in quite a few places. Passing by a couple major dry falls here coming out of a side drainage. We picked up the trail fairly quickly, leaving the saddle. Been following it for some time now, and it's been mostly level. But the hard part is about to begin, because we are going to have a very steep descent. The nice part will be if we have the trail, if we can keep following it, it'll make it a lot easier. But I'll show you some views here, what we're looking at right now. This is the view looking out Surprise Canyon. We can actually see the road down there and the stream running next to it, and then on out into Panamint Valley. Really cool, but you can see how far down that is, and this is the ridge we're walking across right now that's about to drop steeply. Trail has been descending more rapidly, but nothing that's not manageable. And just skirting a few bumps here on the ridge. But it's basically just crossing down a ridge. Distance-wise, we're halfway down the trail, but we've kind of done the easier part so far. And that's still our view looking down Surprise Canyon. As far as a route update, we're over halfway down into Surprise Canyon. The route really hasn't been all that bad. Only lost the trail a couple times and only a few sketchy spots, like by that major dry fall. But mostly the trail's in pretty good shape. Real happy with it, especially this view right here down Surprise Canyon. Just want to drop an alert in here that the last 20 minutes just been extremely steep with unstable footing. We are still following a trail, and that's the only good thing about it. But it's real easy to take falls here. Just such a steep grade going down. This is our view here where the trail's leading us down into the wash of this canyon. And you probably can't really see it from here, but the canyon drops off in a major dry fall. We just came down this slope along the right side. Very steep, very hard for the last, I don't know, 40 minutes or so. But now we're down in that wash and almost to the dry fall. There's that major dry fall I was talking about earlier. We're passing by just above it. We've reached the Surprise Canyon Rim Trail above the first narrows. Look down in here. Sheer cliffs. The trail we're on is a safe distance above them, but we're exercising real caution here. And we got to work our way around that way. This area is super sketchy. Definitely don't recommend this to anyone. Great views into the canyon, but we're having a hard time as it is, keeping safe with our footing. We can actually see some of the waterfalls down there in Surprise Canyon from up here. Nice angle. Not a totally comfortable place to stand, but nice view. Here's the current view here above the rim trail of Surprise Canyon, above the narrows. We're staying way up on the hillside on a sheep trail, but can't film much because it would make it dangerous. Just wanted to show you here, we were able to breathe a sigh of relief because we picked up the main rim trail. We had been hiking along a sheep trail that was sketchy and scary at parts because we took a slightly wrong turn and ended up by that dry fall and had to go around the mountain. But this is the trail we had wanted to be on. Look at this view. Almost down into Surprise Canyon, and the first thing we see is this waterfall. And that's the view up canyon. We just got to drop down right here, this little trail. We are just about to finish this connector trail from Middle Hall over to Lower Surprise, and it has been quite the challenge. And I definitely can't recommend this route pretty much to regular hikers or anybody, because there's some sketchy areas right here when you would climb out of Surprise Canyon. But this, of course, is the second time that I did it, and yeah, we're just moments away from getting down. And when we get down into Surprise, I'm just going to share some footage with you of the waterfalls and the creek flowing by, and then I'll catch up with you when we get back to the vehicle. that is gonna do it for Panamint Mountains Death Valley Adventure 5. Appreciate you joining us and watching me and Josh on this great adventure here in the Panamint Mountains. Today was quite a day. Really, every day was quite a day. So on the first day we did 14 hours, second day 11 hours, and here on this third and final day 8 hours, for a total of 32 hours of hiking. As I mentioned earlier, mileage was shorter, but that doesn't really matter because it was all about the difficulty. But yeah, word of caution as I close this out, basically the entire route is not meant for regular hikers or most people. And Josh and I got through it. Of course, I'm one of the most experienced Death Valley hikers in the world, and it was a wonderful route. I really enjoyed it. I wish I had a little bit more daylight at times, but I showed the route as best as I could under the circumstances, and hope you enjoyed seeing what it's like in the Panamint Mountains in places most people never get to hike.